Architecture Review Committee, Monday, March 17th. We have 5 members in attendance, so I recognize that we do have a quorum here today. If everybody had a chance to take a look at the minutes from the January 14th meeting and have any comments.
Look good to me.
Except for the correction that Lisa Paul will be vice president?
Yes, I will make that correction.
Okay.
All right, so do we have an approval of the meeting minutes for January 14th with the correction of Lisa Paul being the vice president?
I move to make those changes.
All right, if you can pull the microphone closer to
Oh.
you.
I move to make the change.
All right, do we have a second?
A second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? All righty. Okay, moving on, old business. Does anybody have any old business? We do not? Okay. Moving on to new business, we do have an application for approval of the design of a pergola at the Tipsy Mermaid location that had previously received a grant from us. This is not a new application for funding. This is just the requirement that work that occurs after the project is completed needs to receive design approval from us, since we had contributed money towards that project in the past. If the applicant is here and wants to make a presentation, we'd appreciate it.
Morning, I'm Ross
Morning.
Atterbury with the Smart Pergola at 8070 Castleton Road in Indianapolis. Am I not close enough? Is that better? Okay. I'm Ross Atterbury with the Smart Pergola at 8070 Castleton Road in Indianapolis. And here on behalf of Tipsy Mermaid, they have an existing porch that they use for seating for the restaurant in good weather. However, that porch is not usable during inclement weather like today. And they would like to expand that seating. They have some additional seating that is uncovered currently out on a sort of brick patio there just in front of the porch before the sidewalk. And that is difficult to use in any conditions because it's completely uncovered. So their thought was to extend that roof line out to cover the patio area, and then they would like the option to be able to enclose that at some point in the future so that they can use it year-round. So the final product would be very much similar to what you saw at North High with the retractable vinyls, but also then with the adjustable louvered roof like what we have at Verde on Michigan Road.
All right, so at this time, they are not applying the drop-down vinyls, so we're not reviewing that at this time. We're just reviewing the pergola structure with the movable roof.
I'd like to review both of them if we can.
Okay.
So they don't have to go back through the process again, but yeah.
All right, but there's no images of the drop-downs, is that?
I have renderings
there-
that show those.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't see any.
Is it identical or similar to North High? Or
Very similar, yeah.
Cohatch?
Same product.
Same
It's the
product?
exact same product, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was just kind of
Bring it up
curious.
here.
I know they're, the transoms and that, what they would look like are, I remember when we reviewed it for North High, there was, like, it was a full shield. There was no, like, transom? Or was there like a 2/3, 1/3 breakup?
Oh,
You refer to your letter.
yes. Yes.
transoms.
You're talking about the percentage of clear versus the percentage of like solid block or sunscreen or
Yes,
vinyl or
and
something
is that
like
how
yes.
you're reviewing the word transom?
Well, I think of the transom as like the fixed glass over the doorway.
Okay,
But yes, we were talking to them about that same thing because they are west facing. So it would be beneficial to them to have some portion of that be shaded so that they can extend their roof line when the sun is setting there. But, again, that's negotiable based on, I think, as a rule, they want to have it fully enclosed.
Right.
And once that's accomplished, to the extent that they can get additional protection for their customers, they'll happily take that.
Okay, so other than the designated areas for a door
Yes.
through these pull-downs, there
Yes.
is no other architectural-looking transom on the full pull-downs?
There is, well,
I guess if
I
we
can
had
show you
an
the rendering if you-
illustration. Sure.
Yeah, do you have one
Yeah,
with
that'd
the
be great.
drop-downs?
And at some point, could you submit whatever you're displaying for everyone, so that way we can share it with the public?
Is this the only one you're showing?
they're the same views, but I have them with the retractables on there.
Well,
I can
and
forward those
also,
on to you so you can all see them.
also what we don't have is the door design.
Right.
Oh, yeah, it's like swinging
That's in line
open
with
there,
their
but,
front door.
Well, yeah, but
would-
on this, for example, there's none of that suggestion of what it's going to be.
correct.
So is there a side door to get from, besides the front? Okay, will there be a side door to get from this area to this area?
No.
Okay,
They were planning on reworking the stairs so that you can no longer cross there. You would have to go in the building and then back into the pergola.
okay. But then there would also be a pull down on, under the original roof?
Exactly, yes.
Okay,
Yes, they'll have to seal that as well so that it keeps the cold out.
Yep, so, that entry in the center of the pergola will be an aluminum storefront.
Yes, sir.
Permanent door transoms and all of that, and then the pull-down panels will be on the other sides of that, yeah,
So we
for
would
that
replace
rendering.
their gates.
Yep, mm-hmm,
Have that.
Oh,
mm-hmm.
so it's interesting that, so they, okay. Because I know that most people use that other entrance, I guess, versus this entrance, because the.
Correct, yeah, it's not the
Yeah.
main entrance, so it is just for patio seating.
Okay.
Apologize if you didn't get those all, forward those up.
Are there any other options besides aluminum as far as the doorways are concerned?
I've had people in the past frame that and put, other sorts of doors, but typically the commercial doors are either steel or aluminum. Was there a particular
Just a question.
thing? Okay. I didn't know if there was a design that you had in mind.
Is there an option to have the door exiting from that space not there on the front?
It's difficult with the geography of that,
Mm-hmm.
because there's an alley sort of to the north, right? We're west facing, so the north end, the left side of those images.
What about to the right?
To the right, there's the elevation change, but they could look at reworking the stairs and trying to put it over there.
I guess my concern is that that aluminum storefront piece is permanent. It doesn't go up and down, and so now the front of the building, what you see is that new aluminum storefront entry, and I think that really kills the character of it.
Yeah,
Does that exit, is that there because of code?
It's a fire exit, basically, which is part of the reason why we were trying to avoid that south side, is that they have the main entry and exit way to the building going that way, and then you've got competing doors in the same footprint. right?
Yes.
The-
Have
the
you guys
one door
done?
swings into the other path.
Right, so have you guys done the occupant calculations for the total patio area? Because kind of like with North High, if we're less than 50 people, they only need the one exit.
Right.
Which would be back through the door they came in, you know, to go out to the patio, and we could just eliminate having that other door entirely.
My guess is that it's less occupancy than what was it? North High.
Sure.
And
Oh,
so-
yeah, they don't have the same space. but-
Right.
Yeah.
And so if that's an option,
Yeah, 'cause
I agree, because when these shades are up, it's just this floating kind of
Yeah,
aluminum entrance.
yeah.
Yeah, the aluminum doors back to the entrance, or the doors that are there now
Yeah.
is not pretty. I mean,
Right, so if it's inclement and the walls are down, people aren't gonna be going in and out of that aluminum door anyway. It's not the entrance to the building. I don't want people to confuse it as the entrance to the building, which it's now closer to the sidewalk, so it would look like the entrance to the building. I think logistically, from their standpoint, it could be a problem, but from like an architectural perspective, I think it would detract kind of from the main entry.
and it's also an opportunity to add table. They could add
Yeah,
a 4-top or a couple of 2-tops or something, but
Yeah.
they could add occupancy by eliminating that
Yep.
door if it's under 50.
yeah.
And you can almost count that it's.
I mean, I do agree. I mean, if there is an identifiable entrance that's closer to the sidewalk with this pergola structure, that more people are going to start using that. And from what I know, all their hostess station and that is set up on the inside of the south door.
Right. Yeah, so they wouldn't, you don't go straight to the hostess station if you were to enter through the pergola space. The
Right,
patio
and
pergola, yeah,
and I don't know if
you'd have to go around.
if they would like that flow, you know, because if people enter through that pergola entrance and then go through the actual entrance, then they're going through the dining room to get to
Sure.
the hostess station, unless the owner is looking at relocating all their thoughts on that.
No, I think that was why they were eliminating that crossover stairway. As
Got
it
it.
sits now, you can walk up and then turn left and walk straight back down without going to the building and enter the patio space that way. And so by eliminating that, it forces more people into the hostess stand. So I'd have to remeasure that, but I believe it's about the same depth on the porch as it is the patio. The patio's under 8 feet. So even at 10 or 12 feet on the covered porch, which I think is way wider than what it is, you'd be well below 50 people for the occupancy.
Cool. All right.
So I can run the math and be positive on it, but to your point.
And we're not a code
at
body,
that- right.
so just throwing that out there, that if it's not required, we would want those doors removed.
Basically
And if they are
eliminate it and
required,
do
we still
vinyl
don't want
across.
those doors, you have to look at another way of doing it.
Right.
And I would have to think that it would be a cost savings
Oh, yeah.
to trade out
Typically,
the
yes.
doors for the pull down.
Yeah, they're similar in cost, but I think it is slightly less to do the retractables.
Okay. So now we get to the situation of the pull-down screens and kind of all the,
I have a quick question.
oh, yeah, please, yep.
On the existing porch, on the north and south ends, how are you sealing those off?
The south end is basically already sealed, with the exception of a small gap to that column. There's like a round column there that they would just flash across to, but it's adjacent to the wall, so it's a small area. On the north end, it would be another retractable that would go down there, and I think we were looking at having either a solid panel at the railing and the vinyl going to the railing, or working it out so that vinyl can go to the floor.
Columns present the same issue in how you're
Just
sealing.
in
those
that they're
columns.
round, so something needs to be scribed to the column to make it look nice. But yeah, they've got a flashing supplier doing that.
I noticed the ones at Cohatch are more black, and are the retractables and where the screens go, are those all black rails?
So at Cohatch, they're actually custom matched to the building trim, but the vinyl itself, the retractable, has a black border around it. So
That's
it does kind of frame it when
That's
it's
something
down.
that we picked, and that's what I was gonna get into
Okay.
next on this. So I think that, per Tom's comment, when you deal with those existing columns, anything you do to kind of flash around it or attach to it cannot permanently damage the columns, so that when this pergola comes down, the columns are intact.
Okay.
And a question that I had previously via email that hadn't got answered is, what is this pergola attaching to at the face of the existing porch?
There is an existing beam that runs across all of the columns. And it is maybe 8 or 10 inches tall. The roof line at present prevents a full height beam from connecting into it. So they were looking at reconfiguring the roof line to move it out of the way. Of course, then the pergola blocks what they've done, but they'd have basically shift the gutter up so that lead edge of the roof line is out of the way of the pergola. You can see it in the overhead on the
Yeah, so
renderings.
they're gonna have to modify that
where it shifts back upward.
roof and like cut it back or something
Yes,
like
sir.
that to do the pergola. Yeah, so I personally would have an issue with that, because once again, when the pergola is gone, they've damaged the building and it wouldn't look the same. You guys would probably have an opportunity to install another row of posts, on the building side of this and have it be an independent structure.
Somewhat, although it's only about 7 feet deep.
Yeah, I know. it would-
So if you come out to the edge of the current gutter line and make an independent pergola, you're setting columns in that space that's already tight, and it becomes kind of unworkable at that point.
Yeah, I just personally am not okay with modifying that existing porch roof in order to add this piece. I don't view this as a permanent structure that won't someday be removed or replaced or modified, and then the building, the work that we paid for has been damaged and removed.
So besides the 4 columns in the front indicated by this, would there be another one at each back corner that meets the roof?
We were looking at doing some sort of a smaller, like maybe a 2x6 rail just to hold the screen track
Okay.
back there, and give them something to land that flashing on so they can scribe it to the columns. But structurally, not really. It's just going from floor to frame so that the track doesn't
Sure.
move. It's got something solid to attach to.
Okay.
Ross, I had a question. Could you describe the water flow of runoff, like in a rainstorm situation?
Sure. Yeah, so from the building, it would still be the building would still handle all the water that's on the building roof. So in the same way that it does now, it's just that gutter line is being moved backward. So it would still capture all the roof water and take it around like it does. The pergola would capture its own water and then direct that out, just basically right at the surface level. So
And-
same way it does now, except instead of sheeting off the patio, it would be coming down the
So it looks like
downspouts.
the legs themselves are channels for water that, similar to downspouts, that the,
Similar, there's an internal downspout pipe. So it's a dedicated pipe within the column, but yes, it would be coming down within the column. So you don't see an external downspout there, though it is handling the water, and that would kick out at grade.
So when the louvers are fully closed, does that provide the same kind of protection from above that the retractables would from the side and the permanent roof
Yes.
over the porch does?
Yeah, so when the roof is shut, any water that lands on the roof gets caught by the internal gutter system. It runs to the downspouts and the column and comes out.
Okay.
And then any water that hits the side panel of the vinyl would sheet drain down and flow out.
Okay, so when the louvers are fully closed, it acts as a
Function
roof.
like a roof, yeah.
Okay,
Hmm. It'll hold snow and ice and that sort of thing, too.
okay. All right,
Yeah, the illustration that's, PDF number 7 or something kind of looks like there's a downspout scupper that's kind of penetrating the existing fence, because I think these columns sit just inside the fence by a few inches, or maybe, I don't know what I'm seeing there on the
Yes.
very left-hand corner.
yeah.
But when the water comes down these columns, it'll just will it just spill out directly onto the patio, or will there be scuppers that kind of spill the water out onto the sidewalk? Or, like, I don't,
Yeah, they were showing like a cow tongue outlet so that it just pretties it up. It's a 3-inch Schedule 40 PVC pipe inside of the downspout, and that stubs through the column.
Yeah.
So
will that
if
require
you're-
cutting the fence in order to
I
get that-
don't think so.
come out?
Yeah, we can
And then that
align the
water will just
downspout
spill
there.
out onto the sidewalk?
Yeah.
I imagine the
we should
existing
be able to-
downspouts are buried, right?
To work through the fence on that.
I don't know if it's buried or if it goes into that planting bed on the side.
I also imagine that it'll make cleaning the existing roof and gutter system difficult, because I don't think can you climb on top of this, or like access the existing roof above the existing patio? Or once you put this pergola there, you need to climb up there with a ladder to get up in there?
Typically with walkboards or something like that. I mean, the weight capacity of that roof, when you start figuring out how much snow there is on it, is well in excess of what it would take to hold somebody up.
Sure.
But snow doesn't move like people do. So typically, we're asking folks to put down walkboards and things like that to, if they're going to be up there moving around.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, remember there's a pretty large mature tree right there that's probably gonna shed a lot of leaves in the fall, and, may cause drainage problems and, clogging things up and whatever. I imagine people will need to get up there
Sure.
once or twice a year or something to clear things out, to keep the water, and to keep the thing operational, just so it's not clogged up with a giant pile of leaves, so. I'm sure you guys deal with
Yeah,
this all the time.
it's come up before, people change out siding, they change out windows, they want to repaint. I've had people re-roof over the top of them, and so, properly protected, there's no reason why you can't get up there and move around. Like I say, structurally, for the weight limit, it's a non-issue. It's just, the roof is springy, and it has flex in it, so you don't want to just be walking across it like it's a patio, but as long as it's protected and you're spreading that weight out, there's no reason why you can't get up there and work.
Structure. I mean, yeah, the white really bothers me. I mean, it's like, what, are there multiple choices of colors available, or custom colors can be applied?
Both.
Okay.
So, yeah, there are 6 standard colors through the manufacturer. Don't change the price at all. And then we've had people with like an RAL number or something like that do a custom color.
The letter said that it was white in order to match the current trim, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That was my thought, is that it blended in with the building well. I
Right.
believe the roof is gray.
Right. And
Again,
I
for the
know-
same reason, their roof is gray, and so having a white structure with a gray
And
roof seemed like it matched.
would that be the trim option on the retractable vinyl as well? Because I know that in dealing
Yes.
with the North High, there were different options for that trim.
Yes.
And is that what you're proposing for the trim as well?
I would think since it's on the white column, you'd want white trim, but
Sure.
could it be changed? Sure, yeah.
Well, I just wondered because, again, didn't have the picture and it wasn't really indicated in the leather other than the structure being white to match the trim.
Right.
So that's why I wanted to ask.
So,
Okay. All right.
All right,
Within what I'm seeing here as far as the fans, the lighting and those, are the heaters already installed on the porch, or are these additional heaters that will be on the east side of this pergola when it's done?
they are not there now. They would be added to the pergola, again, as needed to extend that season. So there's a lot less need for them if the pergola is not enclosed. But the plan was to add those as part of this process.
Yeah, just from the sketch, or from the rendering, I didn't know whether those are existing on the porch now, or you're going to add these. It appears as if they're attached to the pergola.
Right. Yeah, the plan was to hang them off the pergola as part of the initial construction, yeah.
yeah, I think, once we get through some of the kind of the logistics of all this, if you guys do move forward, we would probably have 2 members assigned to meet with you guys to look at colors like we did at the North High location, not only for the pergola structure itself, but also the tracks and then the screens, and as far as what parts are opaque and which parts are clear, et cetera, to get that worked out. So I definitely, like the idea of doing this to gain more outdoor seating, engage the sidewalk more, so I'm in support of this idea of just trying to find a way to make it work. And so, you look at, okay, is something permanent or is it temporary, right? And so if somebody was going to say, hey, we're going to expand this porch and it's going to be permanent, I would look at maybe doing something that matches what's there now with the metal roof and all of that, and really make it look like it was part of the building. If it's temporary, then it doesn't, matter as much about matching. And so I'm debating, how am I approaching this? Am I looking at this as something that's temporary that's going to come off, or is it something, that's going to be permanent there forever, right? So, like I said, if I look at it as something that's going to be permanent, I'd be kind of leaning towards more doing something more substantial would match the house.
Well,
If I look at it as temporary, then we got to make sure we aren't damaging anything on the
Right.
existing building whatsoever.
And can you determine what is permanent and
Yeah.
temporary in years?
Yeah,
We know it's going to be there maybe 20.
yeah. See,
Yeah, after 20 years, we don't.
right. And so, kind of the work that we had done to this building was to make it last for another 100. And so if we're putting on something that's, going to be there for 20, I don't want to damage stuff that was designed to be there for 100.
Back this existing roof line and expose a beam here that they can attach to, then how does that affect the entire
All the downspouts tie into that, like all the downspouts and that whole roof front tie into that current gutter system. So if they cut that back, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I guess the other option would be, is there a way that it could be self-supporting without attachment to the existing building?
Yeah. The biggest impediment to that is the depth of that space. I mean, on a 20-foot patio, if you lose 18 inches to moving the columns out to the front of the drip line, it's less of a problem. This is right at 7 feet. So if you're taking away 1.5 feet plus the column to move that post out beyond the drip line, you've got an obstruction 2 feet into a 7-foot space, and it's just, I don't know that it works. We could look at trying to do some sort of a substructure or something to get underneath there, but that beam height is making things difficult that way.
Yeah, you definitely have some challenges.
Yeah, below,
here
below
compared to
the
other locations.
the line of the gutter, you're really into those columns, and I
Mm-hmm.
think they're concrete. they look to be like a cast concrete product, so.
Oh, the entire column?
I believe so. The
Okay.
round ones?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think they
they're
are.
a little
they
unusual
are.
that way.
Okay.
So if we're under 50, we won't need the doors. And then without the doors, could we just take that fence line all the way across the wrought iron fence?
Yeah, I mean, there's gates there now, so we
Yeah.
would just
Oh,
leave it
there are gates
exactly
there? I
as it
didn't see
is.
the gates.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
would just
it's
not
existing.
modify it at all.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing the gates would, if the gates are there, they obviously would come off, but the opening would still be there
Well-
because you can't
Oh, no, I
do
think
your
we
drop down.
No, we're inside of the fence, so we would just keep the gates there.
Yeah, just close, the gates are open now, and just close the gates so that
Oh, okay,
the wrought
okay.
iron is a consistent view across the
Right,
front.
okay.
With no
Yeah.
doors, change the color of the pergolas so that they're not so loud and in your face. If we can knock those colors back and then work out the displacement of water. I'm not quite sure how much of the front of that. If you go back to there's a view, maybe it's 08, where you have the roof view. Is that a correct view or just an illustration of how that upper gutter system, I think it's on 08 pixel, I'm calling it,
Where the gutter jogs slightly?
yeah, the aerial view of it.
Yes, that should be accurate. You can see where that gutter line shifts back if you're looking at the overhead view.
Oh, I don't know, I opened all of them, try the third.
You're talking about
This one?
right there?
So on your agenda, it should be the third link down, or fourth link down.
So the existing. Yeah, there's a set of, the existing rain gutter is straight across, and it looks like
Yeah.
we're shifting this back at least a foot in order to tie into that existing beam. Kind of raising the rain gutter on the north end higher than the rain gutter that, on the rest of the building that's kind of contiguous currently.
Correct.
Yeah. I don't know, that just, seems like this building was, completely remodeled and reconstructed and rebuilt just no more than 3 years ago, and with a lot of care and attention, and it just, this whole concept seems like an afterthought. Like, why didn't they think of that? I wasn't here three or 4 years ago, but it seems like, if they wanted an enclosed porch that went all the way to the sidewalk, they could have worked with the architects and built it intentionally that way from the beginning. This whole thing kind of seems like an afterthought that, if it doesn't work out, or if it gets torn down or removed 20 years from now, you've kind of,
Jack up.
you've kind of permanently, impacted the existing building.
Are you
Would there be a
is
way
that-
to reduce the height of this, so you could like get it under the existing line? Like, what if you took the existing rain gutter off, put a series of, let's say, hangers on the existing beam, and then put made this entire structure, 6 inches lower, so that you could hang it on the existing beam, and then reattach the rain gutters that are there to the existing beam on top of those hangers? I don't know, I'd need to draw something, but.
I think it probably depends right now. It looks like it's, I'm sure it depends on the height above the door and the window frames. Of the existing
Yeah, I mean,
building.
I know it's 8'10". That beam sits 8'10.5" and it goes up to 9'6.5" So if we're flush to the bottom of it, the pergola is 8'10.5", which is
Right, and that's why I was saying you have to come in with new columns. to
somewhat
support
low
it.
as commercial pergolas go. That's about where our residentials typically land. But then to take that down lower, you'd be close to 8 feet. We've done one at 8 feet out at Ale Emporium in Castleton. Is the lowest of the commercial pergolas we have, but it's,
Yeah. That makes
it
hard to
doesn't
put
have
a
any
ceiling
fixtures with
fan
lights.
on top, on that too, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. That one, the only fixtures they have on it are can lights, recessed can lights.
Seems like if you raise this gutter here, you also need to raise it as it wraps around the back side and raise that up another, I don't know what the height elevation would be. This looks like it's coming up a
Correct.
good 6 or 8
Yeah.
inches.
They'd carry that
And you
line
need to-
through so that,
You need to cut that around so that it remains level and you can still,
now to your point, if the pergola were to vanish someday, that transition would still be there. However, it's not arbitrary. There is is a gable right there over the main doors to the south. And the transition happens from that roof line out. So there would still be an architectural feature dictating where that transition happens, even if the pergola weren't there. It's not as though it's just a completely straight line with a section taken out of it.
Yeah,
Right, so
but
I
it would
don't
be-
think it would look terrible if the pergola were to vanish, but I'm hoping they keep it for a while.
Yeah, no, it would look awful, because it would be cut back to the beam, and there'd be no overhang or anything to it. It would be awful.
right. So if the pergola would ever need to be removed or replaced, it would need to be replaced or with something immediately, otherwise it would
We're basically creating,
detract.
if we're modifying the existing building, we're creating something that we have to view as permanent. Whether it's this or something else, we have to view it as being permanent. If we're looking at something that is permanent to this beautiful building that we spent money on to remodel, and then we're putting this on it, I think it's killing the personally, I just think it kills the character of the whole building from the street. You now just see this pergola, like to Tom's point, hey, it's white, hey, can we do something to make it kind of disappear a little bit more? I mean,
Yeah.
we've killed the character of what we created along the street by putting this on here. They're gonna, have those drop downs, and so you're not gonna see the existing columns. You're not gonna see that, you can't even see that existing metal roof line. You can't see the existing porch. We've got a plastic, wrapped box
Yeah.
in front of the building.
You almost wonder if a screen porch would even be a better option
I don't know,
than the drop down.
but to your point, like, if they wanted more covered dining, they should have done it then. Or let's do a design that matches the building, that brings in that character, pulls it closer to the street or something. I don't know.
I mean, even without the pergola structure, you can still enclose the existing porch with
Correct.
vellum or mosquito netting or,
You can do the
whatever it is,
drop-downs.
like, you can do
Right.
drop-down screens there and I don't know what, but
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation, like you said, it's really narrow, right? So if you had more room, then we could have this kind of be more, that's what I was getting at, can we just make it more freestanding, right? So it doesn't
Right.
impact the existing building, then, it's not modifying the existing building, it's still kind of blocking it, but at that point, we're like, is it worth it? But if we're modifying the existing building and we're blocking the existing building and changing the character along the front, I think it's, for only 7 feet, for like 5 tables. It's a huge impact to the building for not much gain, I think.
Remind me, what is the depth of the existing porch and the depth of this patio space?
The patio space itself is 7'4".
And the porch, do you know?
I can't recall, but it's similar to that dimension.
Okay.
So I'd say no more than 10 feet.
Yeah.
No, it's a tough one.
Yeah, like I said, I want to see something happen. I mean, the more outdoor dining and more covered seating and, engaging with the sidewalk, and I mean, there's there's positive things to be had. There's just some real logistical issues. So, I mean, my recommendation, just if there's a way that we don't have to modify the existing building so that if this comes down in the future, we haven't damaged anything, then I could view this more as, acceptable temporary-ish type structure.
Well, I think unfortunately for us, and to keep the integrity of our committee and what we have done over almost 20-some years, is this kind of goes against that in the sense that having to change the front structure once this is off, well, we've really lost the entire integrity of the structure by having to change that roof line. So if, I think it's really hard it would be difficult for me from the integrity of this committee to agree to that. And I understand that this is from an expenditure standpoint, certainly attractive, because I think if it was done to keep the integrity of the architecture, sure, the expenses are going to double, triple, whatever it is. But and then once again, that it's not my business, but for the Tipsy Mermaid to add that space undercover year-round would justify the expense for them. But I don't think it justifies what we have started out to do.
Right, and to go back, some of the original designs on the Tipsy Mermaid included more covered seating that had big windows that would open up, that would be kind of an indoor-outdoor type of open-air space, and they got rid of that. But that was integrated into the building itself and part of the architecture, and I feel like they're trying to create more of that space, but doing it in a less appropriate way.
Yeah, the last few weeks when the weather is nice and the doors to the north, or I'm sorry, to the south were all open, and you had that feeling, dining feeling that you were inside out and can flow. But this,
I can check into doing that as like a free span across the back, post to post, at the gutter line. Maybe that would be the way to do it, so that the only posts intruding would be at the two edges. 'Cause it sounds like
I think,
you'd be flashing back more from the gutter line to those columns, right? But if that solution is one that you like better, I could see about doing the columns on the two sides and a clear span, like a steel beam or something like that. My understanding,
Make
you're,
it, you
so
say to
it would
make
start from
fall
the
into
existing
con-
gutter line.
And to make it fall into the temporary kind of structure.
meaning that if it
Without-
came off, it did not impact
Impact, right.
Yeah.
what we
Right.
have spent our money on
If,
already.
yes, so if the greatest objection to their covering the space is that you're modifying a building that the town's already spent money to make look the way it does, if we could, I can check in doing like a free span beam back there where you'd still have the columns coming in at the gutter line, but they'd be on the two edges, and see what that would look like. Would that be a better solution then? It's 32 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, so if we get to that point, then we've eliminated the damage to the existing building. So if this ever comes off, we've solved that. Now we have to talk
Aesthetics.
about, does it hurt the aesthetics? And yeah.
oh, there's no way around it, that even at, it looks nice at Cohatch, but when it's enclosed,
And that's all it is.
It is what it is. You can't dress that up at all when it's enclosed. And it functions well. They had a wedding reception there not long ago.
You would assume that the retractable panels would only be down somewhat consistently from, December, January, February. So, a quarter of the time.
Yeah.
It would have that appearance that we're,
Or if it's raining or something
Right.
during, any inclement weather would bring them down.
Right.
In all seasons.
I mean, it'll,
And I don't think that during the winter time that they would, traffic would be that heavy to put people outside. I mean, all that much, but,
well, only they know
Yeah.
what percentage of people they've turned away because they don't have enough seating between December and March, so.
yeah.
On the north side of the existing porch, which is covered, you mentioned, Ross, you mentioned that there would be like, when they pull the screens down and they try to enclose it, they would need to have a section on the very, let's say like, what, the existing porch is, let's say, 8 feet wide, there'd be an 8-foot wide screen that would come down, but there's a railing around there. So
Yes.
would we remove the railing, or would we?
No,
Would
that
they
would
need to
stay.
enclose the railing, or would it be like in front of it or behind it, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were looking at doing either a panel where the railing is, so that it would seal that, or depending on what the guys that are doing the flashing are able to do, we may be able to push that out past the railing and come down in front of it.
Yeah.
So it would go all the way to the.
So it wouldn't be
porch
modified at
floor.
all, and you go to the floor, yeah.
It just depends on.
Front of or
side
behind it, yeah.
it.
Because, yeah, otherwise, I'd hate to see that railing removed or enclosed or made solid,
Right.
because it's now, a decorative kind of, I don't know what you call
No, it
these,
wouldn't.
spindles,
Yeah.
because they don't go all the way to the fence.
So,
Yeah, there's not, there's more space.
Yeah, I think,
Is there any, a conversation at what, or is there space to the south to do this and not do it in the front of the building? To extend outdoor seating?
I don't think so. We haven't looked at that area specifically. I know the patio's a little bit higher down there.
Tom, are you talking about the
Yeah,
south
that is the
end
main
of the
entrance,
west
though.
facade or the actually south end of the building?
south end of the building.
Okay.
South of the building,
South of the building,
Yeah.
okay.
'Cause there's a little garden back there, right?
yeah. So I think, me personally, the experience of walking down the street with what's there now, with the railing and the seating and that beautiful porch railing, the column details, the metal roof, you can see all of the fish scale siding and everything that we paid extra actually to renovate. That all goes away with this piece out front, honestly. And so from a personal standpoint, I see this additional piece as a detriment to the building and to the experience along the streetscape. And for the minimal gain that would be accomplished for the business owner with maybe 5 tables out there, to me personally just does not justify the damage to the streetscape personally. That's just me.
I agree with you, and I think it's the pergola is a great idea, and I've seen them done well, and I like your product, and it just seems like it's a stark contrast from the you know, the period architecture and the aesthetic that of the existing building is in stark contrast to the, you know, very modern kind of, you know, what'd you call it, contemporary style of the pergola, which then, you know, kind of covers it up, and it just seems like an afterthought architecturally, and, you know, I just don't know that it's, you know, consistent with the mission of this group to provide funding for that. I mean, I don't know that we can prevent it from being built, but, you know, I don't know that we
Oh,
can
well,
fund it.
so there is a requirement that when projects do receive grant monies, once the project is complete, there's a period of time in which they cannot do anything to the building, design-wise, without our approval.
Oh, okay. So
So they do have to get our approval to do exterior improvements.
oh, I see.
Yeah.
So in that, since we've funded the
Yeah.
reconstruction of this building 3 years ago, or whenever it was,
We have a say in it.
for some
whether-
period of time?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Yep. So that's where we're at. And so that's our charge today is to, you know, approve them doing this or not approve them doing this from
I
a
see.
design standpoint.
Okay.
Yeah. All
Yeah, I
right.
mean, initially, when I first saw the, you know, the drawings and, you know, thought about it for all of about 5 minutes, I thought, oh, that'd be nice, you know, but, you know, as we've kind of talked through a lot of the implications here and some of the details, I agree with you, Todd. I think this would be a detriment.
Okay. So do we have a motion on this or as presented?
Well, I would say a motion as presented that we would not approve it. And for all the various reasons that we've stated.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's not because of quality or not quality product, but it's from the integrity and it also goes all the way down to the representation of the architecture across the whole field, if you will, the entire business district, and that being one of the primary properties within the business district.
So that circles back a little bit then to my earlier question about the clear span beam back there, if it were to be freestanding. It seems like the answer to that then is that doesn't really change your mind one way or the other on the project, because architecturally the pergola is modern and the building is more of a traditional style.
Yeah, so for me personally, it's not that I'm opposed to anything modern with traditional, right? If it's like own thing and you know, you don't want to try, replication is not something that I think should be done, right? So definitely having it look different is okay. But I think what we're getting at, or at least my personal opinion on this, is that this completely blocks all of the historic architecture. So we end up losing that character entirely.
Right. So
So
I understand when I'm talking to the customer afterward,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like it's worth refiling with a different design unless it's on another side of the building or somewhere where it's leaving that facade that the town has funded and designed
yeah.
open as it is. So
That would
kind
be
of-
I think that's kind of what I was personally getting. I can't speak for everybody else, but personally it is, at first we were talking about, oh, if we don't modify the structure of the existing, is it okay? And I've gotten to the point to where even not modifying the existing structure, having this piece kind of block the character of the existing building, just is something I'm not comfortable with.
Sure.
Yeah, but that's just me personally.
And I've noticed over the period of years that I've been in the village, when things of this nature have been approved, we pay for it for a long time. Takes a while to get rid of it, if you will. And I think we've worked really hard over the last several years in the Architectural Review Committee to change the entire presentation and experience in the business district. And with this, once again, being a key building, we just can't, we cannot lose that.
All right, so I would be looking for a motion to approve or deny the design as presented today.
I make a motion that we deny the design that was presented today for the extended pergola at Tipsy Mermaid.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
All right, all those in favor of denial, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion
Denied.
is denied. So, thank you, guys. We do love your product. We do love the intent of what's trying to happen here. I think just the design as presented kind of might be a detriment. So, thank you, guys, though.
No, I
Yeah,
appreciate your
thank you. I
time.
appreciate it.
It's very beneficial for us to hear your comments and kind of appreciate the thought behind the decision, so
Yeah.
thank you very much.
And then, once, I would recommend kind of what we talked about. Is there another spot on the site where they could gain some more outdoor dining, that might not block that main facade? Might be something worth talking to them about.
And
Yeah.
tied into the new structure would
Yeah.
be, if
Yeah.
it goes contemporary, that's fine too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
There could be some options. Great. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you all for your
Yeah.
time.
Thank you.
All right. Any other business?
Oh, no, other than, there was a email, well, first of all, I wanted to ask, who are the two people that are with Cohatch?
I wrote you and it got kicked back. So
Oh,
we were the two that went out there and reviewed it. But at this time, this committee has not received an application for final approval. So.
oh, do they
So
know that?
as a committee, we have not been asked to review the work or approve any funding. The town officials have been in communication with them, and they are working with them on closing out.
Oh, that's
that-
right, because
that
we have no
grant.
funds any longer, so is that because of that? Oh,
It could be various reasons, but at this time, this committee has not received any request to approve the final design or release funds.
At what point, there was a period of time where there was no activity, then at what point did they,
Install that.
so we don't know?
It is
Yeah.
installed.
Well, I know
Yeah.
it's
But we don't
installed,
know
but
what
we got
timeline.
a call that it was done, or did we not get a call and we
We've-
just noticed that it was
This committee has
finished?
not received any notice that it's done or that it needs to be inspected or have final sign off as a committee.
So there might be some issues from when the brewery closed and
Some ownership
owners,
issues.
yeah, I think, yeah.
Who's the responsible party now? Who
Got it.
receives the funds, et cetera? And so the town and legal have to determine.
Yeah, they have not received any funds at this point.
Correct.
Other than we had a commitment,
Correct.
but
Yes.
they
As far as I-
went ahead with this without any note. Obviously, we had no indication that the two businesses were either separating or one was combining, was absorbing the other.
Yes, we had no knowledge of that. Yeah.
And without going up and inspecting and touching, it looks like they met all our aesthetic requirements.
Yeah.
But, I didn't go really close to take a look
Yeah.
based on, our
Yeah.
request.
Yeah, so
But
we have
the
no-
colors look to be okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
all that
I-
stuff. But the integration parts in that,
Yeah.
I didn't
So
go.
I believe that the ownership of that property in the town are talking about logistics on finalizing kind of approvals and funding, et cetera. But as a committee, none of it has come to us at all.
It's very, obviously, quite unusual.
Yes, yeah. Right.
Never happened
To do-
before, that's why I'm going, well, hey.
The
Yeah.
timing thing, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's the
based
time, I
on-
mean, a business closing and they were the ones that were the applicants, like.
Yeah,
That's.
North High, yeah.
The restaurant was. not
Yeah.
Cohasset.
Oh,
Mhm, yeah. So there's probably some legal,
Oh,
things
sure.
that need to happen first before we could approve anything and release any funding. including the allocation of funding.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Those that we gave the funds to left out.
That's right. We haven't given them anything
So we
yet.
didn't give
so,
any funds.
Yeah.
But before, I just wanted to clear that up so that
Yeah.
I have some indication if I'm asked, you know, as to
Yes.
why this is happening or
Yep,
whatever.
yep. No, we have not been asked to review anything, but Lisa and I would do that as representatives who worked with them on the design. And then the committee would have to have its regular meeting to
Sure, approve
approve it as a group.
Right, right.
It'll be interesting to see if they get retracted once the weather
Oh,
becomes
yeah.
nicer.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they-
Or the Cohutch people to sit outside.
For
'cause
sure.
I'm sure, you know, even though
Yes.
the,
Well, they're going to be using that mainly for an event space. So they already have, they've, I don't know, within the last 3 weeks, a wedding there.
okay.
And I know that there are people that have scheduled to have their children's graduation, high school graduation parties there. So that enclosed space will probably get used quite a bit. Well, enclosed or not enclosed, depending
Right,
on the
and it
weather.
was the
But
sanctuary, it was rented out to be the same without the outdoor space, so I'm great that that's available.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it'll be a nice addition to the village, actually, to have it be an event, kind of a
Yep.
quote-unquote event space. But in one of the emails sent to the committee, someone asked about what role the Main Street,
Yeah.
Zionsville, and
Correct.
if this would have any effect on that. Not at all, actually, because we would be looked at as a partner within the Main Street Zionsville program. We are very well ahead of a lot of small towns that have been doing this especially from an architectural review committee. We're fortunate that we can bring in, part of what we will be doing with the Main Street program is we're working with the Sullivan Munch, the Cultural District, Architectural Review Committee, all of us that were kind of working independently on what Main Street was looking at and where the direction Main Street would be going and whatever, so that we can all have a central location that information can flow through to the public. And so the only difference would be that if we had a project going, it would have more legs in the sense that more people would know what we're doing and just more exposure to it.
Okay.
But yeah, no, as far as, one thing that I'm going to try to do is reach out to the fellow that's going to be opening the bagel shop in the village to see if he's doing any, and offer to him the idea of the Zionsville Architectural Review Committee, and if he's doing any facade enhancements, because he's taken over the entire building.
Which building is that?
Yeah.
That's right next door to the Friendly, to the North Friendly used to be there was a salon
Oh, the salon and the art, it used to be an art
and the
gallery.
cleaners.
Yeah.
So that,
And the cleaners?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that whole building.
Oh, they're the same building?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
the
the
salon
same
and
One
building.
ownership
Yeah.
for that whole building.
I always
one
think of
use.
that, in my mind, I think of them as two
Yeah.
separate structures, but
Yeah.
it's one building.
They're actually connected. Two different
Yeah.
worlds, yeah. Yeah.
And I've seen some preliminaries for it, and he's gonna have some great outdoor space. It's gonna, I think it's called Gable's Bagels. And it'll be breakfast and lunch, as far as I know. And with great outdoor seating, I think that
Yeah. Up-
parking lot that's part of it, that no one ever used because it's difficult to get in and out, back out.
Yeah.
Will be, I think, become an outdoor dining
Yeah.
space. And then all the space along there, when it was a salon, they used, and when it was an art gallery, it'd probably been more art galleries there than anything else, and how they use that outdoor space. So it'll be a nice addition to have it next door to the Friendly.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So are both spaces currently empty or not?
Oh,
yet?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
they are.
They have been for a while.
Oh, okay. Haven't taken anything to
yeah,
dry clean.
definitely evangelize the owner to take advantage of our funding. and-
Yeah, I'm just gonna
to-
reach
to the
out to
extent
him
that
so
it
that he,
exists. I don't know.
Yeah, so I was
Exactly.
gonna say, we don't have funding necessarily.
well,
That's the
we,
issue.
we have funding when
We'll
it's
talk about that
requested.
offline in a minute.
I'm sorry?
We can talk about that after the meeting.
Oh, okay.
All right.
But maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate the updates on that. Any other business? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.